Benvenuti a tutte e a tutti alla finale di Ateneo di Esponi le tue idee. Esponi le tue idee è un torneo di dibattiti promosso da WeWorld Onlus nell'ambito del progetto End Climate Change, Start Climate of Change, un progetto cofinanziato dalla Commissione Europea ed incentrato sui temi del cambiamento climatico e della tutela ambientale. In particolare lo scopo di questa iniziativa è quella di diffondere la cultura del dibattito costruttivo su tematiche attuali di interesse globale, favorire il confronto tra posizioni diverse e promuovere l'adozione di un approccio multidisciplinare nel trattare problemi complessi. EXPONI rappresenta quindi un'occasione per ricordare che occorre innescare un clima del cambiamento che parta innanzitutto da una forma di consapevolezza sia individuale che collettiva. Nello scorso mese di dicembre la prima fase del torneo qui in Università Cattolica ha coinvolto 39 studenti e studentesse divisi in 8 squadre provenienti da 7 diverse facoltà dell'Ateneo. Oggi le 2 squadre finaliste si confronteranno sul tema It is too late to halt climate change. La squadra vincitrice si qualificherà quindi per le fasi successive a livello nazionale con la speranza e un grosso in bocca al lupo perché possa arrivare a rappresentare l'Italia nella finale europea che poi si terrà a Bruxelles. In questa brevissima introduzione ci tengo a sottolineare tutte le persone che hanno reso possibile questa iniziativa, in primo luogo gli studenti e le studentesse che si sono iscritte, che hanno avuto il coraggio, l'entusiasmo di mettersi in gioco in questa competizione, lo staff del Centro di Ateneo per la Solidarietà Internazionale, la direzione di comunicazione del nostro Ateneo e tutte le persone, gli esperti e i colleghi che si sono prestati a moderare i dibattiti e a fare da giudici nelle fasi precedenti di questa iniziativa. In particolare poi oggi devo fare un grande ringraziamento al dottor Riccardo Barlam del Sole 24 Ore, a cui tra pochissimo cederò la parola per moderare il dibattito, e ai componenti della giuria di oggi, e cioè la dottoressa Sandra Corsi della FAO e i colleghi professor Fausto Colombo e Chiara Zanarotti. Quindi posso qui concludere questa mia brevissima introduzione, do molto volentieri la parola, come detto, al dottor Riccardo Barlam e faccio il migliore in bocca al lupo alle squadre che oggi si confrontano. E ancora un buon pomeriggio a tutti.
Okay, good afternoon everybody and welcome to this online debate on the social platform of Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. My name is Riccardo Barlam. I am a journalist for Il Sole 24 Ore, the Italian economic and financial daily newspaper. I will be the chairman of today's debate. The topic is indeed climate change. It's a pleasure for me to introduce this debate. I spent the last 3 years in New York City to cover as US correspondent of my newspaper the American politics and the presidential election. In his first day as president, Joe Biden announced the US plan to re-enter the Paris Agreement. The United States, the Trump presidency, quit in 2017 the climate agreement signed in 2050 to limit global warming in Paris. Biden is also ready to clear more than 100 environment deregulation rules decided by the Trump administration. That means that now climate is again a priority for the United States. Università Cattolica, through Centro per la Solidarietà Internazionale, has joined EXPONI le tue idee, a project promoted by the NGO WeWorld. As part of the project End Climate Change, Start Climate of Change, co-financed by the European Commission. The first stage of the challenge held in last December, 39 students gathered in 8 teams and challenged each other in 10 different debates. The winner of the first phase are these 2 teams, As We Speak and 1987. The two teams will face today each other once again with three judges. Sandra Corsi, Climate Smart Crop Production Manager at Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, will follow the debate live, and she will announce the winner team at the end. The other two judges, Professor Fausto Colombo and Professor Maria Chiara Zanotti, will follow it remotely. Well, let's start our debate. The topic, as you know, is climate change. The question is it too late to halt the climate change? Each team captain will introduce the debate, one in favor and one against. Captain of the first team, as we speak, is Valentina Galli. Valentina, you have 3 minutes. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you. So, climate change is defined as a long-term shift in global or regional climate patterns. Responding to it involves a two-tiered approach. Mitigation, so they hope to be able to reduce the flow of GHG into the atmosphere, and adaptation, so learning to live with and adapt to the climate change that has already been set in motion. The key question here today is which one of these two paths we should follow. Recycling and driving more fuel-efficient cars are examples of important behavioral change that will help, but will not be enough. Because climate change is a truly global, complex problem with economic, social, and political consequences. Starting with the fact that it's very difficult to separate what is politics from what is science. So it would be reductive to try and solve this complex problem with such simple and hypothetical solutions as the ones the opposite team will probably bring us to the table today. It's up to us what happens next, and we know that. But before making a quick decision, we think we should make some considerations first. So the problem is this. In the process of precisely calculating climate change consequences, the margin of error is very wide. The thing is, as you project outwards with regards to your climate change projections, which are quite unreliable to begin with, the unreliability of the measurement magnifies as you move forward in time. So if we move in, let's say, 50 years from now, the projections are already so wide that we won't be able to measure the positive or negative impact of anything we do right now. This means the actions, the goals, the limits that we're setting currently can be much of a help. So our question is, how in the world are you going to solve a problem when you can't even measure the consequences of your own actions? How are you going to make a plan about how to solve a problem when you don't know what a problem is? This is the kind of thinking that brings us absolutely nowhere. Adaptation, instead, means anticipating the adverse effects of climate change and taking appropriate action to prevent or at least minimize the damage they can cause, or taking advantage of opportunities that may arise. It has been shown that well-planned early adaptation saves money and lives, such as investments in new technologies or training for new jobs that might arise. The IPCC defines adaptation as the process of adjustment to actual or expected climate change. It's doing what we can to live with and minimize the destruction and the suffering that comes from it. Because, to be clear, we have to adapt. Failing to adapt to a reality that is partially already here to prevent misery and death isn't just irresponsible, it's criminal. Especially when we know that the worst climate impacts hit poor families. The key to solve this issue is steady research. To do so, we need quite a proportion of people working in the field. And Margherita, as our first speaker, will get into this in a more precise way. The point here is that we cannot approach this matter in a superficial way. We have to pass by what we usually hear from the people around us and the media and get our own conclusion straight from the data. This is what we'll try to do here today. Thank you.
Over. So now the captain of the team 1987, what's the meaning of the name, please, Captain?
Age Jane Lee.
What's the meaning? Sorry, it's my curiosity.
What?
1987. Why?
Yeah. Because of the Our Common Future publication that was published in 1987.
So the captain is Asia Jane Lake. You see her.
Yep.
Asia, you have 3 minutes from now.
Thank you.
Please
Well,
go.
first of all, good afternoon to everyone. I'd like to thank the judges and everyone behind the organization for this event, but I also like to thank our opponents for being here today and my team. As said, the theme today is it too late to halt climate change, and what strategies could work better, mitigation ones or adaptation? Mitigation means reducing the causes of climate change, while adaptation means learning new ways and new developing skills to prepare and cope with its impacts. Our team's answer is that there cannot be adaptation without mitigation. Without the latter, the consequence we will face will be too overwhelming and too quick for us to adapt to. Experts have more than once underlined the importance of mitigation, calling for it even in the Paris Agreement, which in Article 7.4 states, and I quote, "Parties recognize that the current need for adaptation is significant and that greater levels of mitigation can reduce the needs for additional adaptation efforts, and that greater adaptation needs can involve greater adaptation costs." Without mitigation, there will be irreversible consequences for us to face, and there will be nothing to adapt to. Mitigation has to be our priority if we want adaptable consequences. Of course, we need to be realists, and we recognize that climate change is already impacting many lives, our lives, and adaptation is needed to preserve health and livelihoods, but relying only on adaptation ignores a sad truth that resources are limited. And adding mitigation to the equation means more costs. It means instead taking this reality into account and actually working towards a more sustainable solution to keep the future safe. If we stop investing in mitigation, there will be extreme climate events and consequences we can't even forecast. Or better, maybe we could, but how can you adapt to something you don't know? Did you know that a global pandemic has been forecasted years ago by the World Health Organization? Even when we knew that something bad was coming at us, we have not been able to adapt to it. So how could we possibly adapt to something we're not even sure about? That's why we need mitigation. And if mitigation policies are not going to be implemented, the consequences of climate change will cause even more damage, acting in unpredictable ways and nullifying and neutralizing any attempt to adapt. Thank you.
Now it is Margherita Ronzoni's turn, first speaker of As We Speak team, the PRO team. Please, Margherita, 3 minutes for you.
Thank you. We all wish there was a solution to climate change, but if a debate about climate change exists, and we're having one right now, it means a solution is not even on the horizon. If this was true, the solution would already be implemented, and we could focus our forces on other relevant topics, such as defeating world hunger. Actually, this example does not come out of the blue, but you're probably wondering why. Bjorn Lomborg, an environmentalist and academician, stated that a great way to adapt to climate change is to get people's GDPs up to $5,000 per person per year, so that the environment will shift at the top of our priorities chain. He also examined this concept in his work Prioritizing Development, in which he and some economists, some of whom were Nobel Prizes, made a list of the most relevant priorities that should be implemented in terms of investment. And guess what? Climate change wasn't even on the list because they couldn't find an efficient solution to the problem. Almost everything that he recommended had to do with increasing child nutrition in developing countries. But you're probably wondering how this is related to climate change, right? Well, simply, if you manage to improve child nutrition, you will increase the use of human brain power, focus on elaborating new strategies on climate change. We must consider that the key to unlock the best solution to this issue is the steady research. To do so, we need to invest in giving people all the resources to start working in this field. And this can happen after processes of industrialization and economic stability in as many countries as possible. How are you going to explain to developing countries they must cut on emission because we, as a developed one, allegedly spent 200 years raising all the pollution levels and getting the highest GDP reachable? How can we pretend they slow down the process of growth they crave for ages to get them out of poverty and into the international stage because of the consequences of the way we made money? Fossil fuels are still the cheapest, most reliable energy resources available. When a developing country wants to build a functional economic system and end rampant poverty, it turns to fossil fuels. Clearly, developing countries don't have the possibilities and therefore the resources to focus on climate policies. And so what does this have to do with the climate crisis? Mitigation policies, even if they did exist, are so hard to implement because of the cost and the job loss that arise from them, specifically in the categories that are less intensive of high skill, such as blue-collar workers, that represent the majority in developing countries and therefore experience a permanent loss of salary. Instead, adaptation policies manage to create job places, even in developing countries, not depending on the skills of the majority of workers. The point is this: we are not comparing one solution to another. Mitigation is not a certain solution. It's some kind of uncertain waiting. If the forecasts made from the mitigation policies reveal to be inexact in the future, we will have wasted 50 years to then start doing the adaptation policies anyway. Thank you.
Margherita. Now it's the turn of the first speaker of the opposite team, Francesca Pellegata from 1987. Please, Francesca, go on.
Thank you for giving me the floor. So we recognize the importance of adaptation, as the other team has argued, but we also believe, as our captain has clearly expressed, that there cannot be adaptation without mitigation. You have said that mitigation policies are expensive for the countries that decide to implement them, but we will try to show you that it isn't. The great advantage of mitigation is that it can be implemented both with top-down and bottom-up strategies. Top-down means that governments can take strong decisions in order to reduce their carbon footprint. As multiple economic analyses have shown, the measures that states could implement extremely quickly and without high costs could be, for example, promoting carbon sinks, like planting more trees, which are able to absorb greenhouse gases, and to reduce the risk of floods and desertification. This is the case of China, that is creating the Green Great Wall, so a wall made of trees that stops the sand from the Gobi Desert and reduces emissions. Another example is cutting subsidies to fossil fuel industries in order to promote investment in renewable energy. Just keep in mind that costs of renewable technologies are dropping, and as the International Labour Organization says, just this year more than 2 million people have found jobs in the sector, and for each fossil fuel industry job loss, 10 are created in the renewable sector. Moreover, mitigation can be supported also thanks to a bottom-up, not expensive strategy. This means that civil society has a fundamental role to play. An example is increasing a more critical consumption. It involves changing our lifestyle, changing our purchasing choices. So buying a sustainable product is about awareness and commitment, not about cost. It means, for example, using just one aluminum bottle of water instead of hundreds of plastic bottles. To sum up, every one of us also with little actions can make a change, and we understand that without mitigation, there won't be a true way forward. Thank you, and I leave the floor to the other speakers.
Thank you, Francesca. It's very interesting, the experience of the Green Wall. I remember the Italian architect Stefano Boeri had an idea of a kind of Italian Green Wall along the Italian town and the Apennini. So now it's the time of the second speaker of the two teams. First of all is the turn of speaker 2 of Florian Seiko of As We Speak team. Florian, you have 3 minutes.
All right, so staying... Okay, I'll start back. All right, so staying on our side of the house is not that easy. The other team, the opposition team, has on their side the power of dreams. So they can dream about the future and dream how to solve these problems. But what is the problem of the dreams? That you have to wake up. And when you wake up, you see the reality, which is our side of the house. But let's start on the computation about what the opposition team said. And let's start in the beginning, right? So they say there cannot be adaptation without mitigation. And this is kind of right. I mean, we can apply that logic to our debate. But the point is we have to show what is more important. And to do this, we have to explain why adaptation for our proposition team is more important. And well, let's go in the future. Let's go in the worst case scenario. All right, we apply more mitigation policies. We do not adapt to the consequences in our future. Let's, for example, say that there's the worst case scenario. So all the forecasts that are made that cannot be precise, as the first speaker as the captain said of my team, are all the worst. And we will see the future with all the mitigation policies applied, because we have limited resources. So we have to decide where to allocate the resources more, and we'll see that all have gone bad, and then we have to adapt, because the adaptation in the end is how we can survive without having certain forecasts, and we've explained this. So, and then we had the example of the global pandemic to show that the forecasts can be due and they are precise. Well, it's not that good, because to be more precise, again, the forecast of the global pandemic was done. Yes, this is true, but it was not done in a certain specific period in time. It was just to be saying that it's probable that it will happen in the future. We cannot be sure when. So this is really a not really relevant example in this specific case. Or maybe it is relevant to apply that it is not sure, I mean, as this specific case. And then we come to the second speaker, which basically gives us some examples of how the mitigation policies can be applied. So number one, we had the example of China, which is really planting trees, and we really do think that this is not the real solution. So it is not enough to just plant new trees to cause a global problem, not to cause, but to save us from a global problem. And then we had the subsidies, all right? But subsidies are given by international or national organizations that give them to exactly is not precise from the opposition team to who are we giving those subsidies. But firstly, we need to have the money to do this, and it's not sure if it is national or international, so it's not clear, and we have to understand to who are we giving this type of subsidies. And then number two, it says that yes, you create more jobs, but what is not comprehended is where those jobs are created. In developing countries, we don't have really the knowledge and the skills by the labor to go from industrial jobs to renewable jobs. You need more skills, and the majority of the people there that are poor have not the possibility to gain those skills. And then they said that changing our behavior is good, but we cannot force everybody to change his behavior. And plus, environmental, yes, does cost more in developing countries. They cannot buy all aluminum cans, and this is quite a dreamy way of seeing the problem. And for all this reason, because we are in real life, we really do support our side of the house. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Florian. Now, the speaker to Irene Pagliotti of the second team, 1987. It's your turn. You have 3 minutes, Irene. The floor is yours. Please go on.
Yes, thank you. So thank you to the pro team. We would like to clarify some points. So first of all, we need to face the reality, which we're all very aware about, that climate change will have devastating impacts on everyone's life, on human species, animal species, and plant species. So of course, we're not saying that adaptation is bad. We of course recognize that it is necessary to adapt, because sea levels are already rising and people are dying in floods. So of course, some adaptation projects and strategies are necessary to preserve human life and livelihoods. Nevertheless, we need to face the reality that if we don't do mitigation today, there won't be anything to adapt to in probably 30 to 40 years. Because if we don't do adaptation, if we don't keep emissions levels to the point that we can avoid an increase in temperatures below 2 degrees, this will mean that by 2100, or probably even earlier, there will be the collapse of civilization. So if we just do adaptation without mitigation, at some point after 2050, there will be nothing to adapt to, because probably the human beings will not be there anymore. So we are not dreamy. We are actually very aware of the reality of facts that mitigation is necessary, as well as adaptation. Secondly, we would like to say that we are also aware that developing countries, they are not, of course, responsible for the majority of emissions we're seeing today, because they had very different economic and historical experiences. And we're not also even saying that they bear the biggest burden of mitigation. Nevertheless, they also have an interest in mitigation. They are doing both adaptation strategies and mitigation. For example, there's a Great Green Wall being built in sub-Saharan Africa, connecting Senegal to Djibouti. It started around 2007, and they're planting trees to prevent desertification, but also to reduce carbon emissions in those countries. And secondly, yes, it is true that we cannot ask people there to countries there in, for example, sub-Saharan Africa to start producing Teslas out of nowhere, because there aren't those skills. But if we look at some countries, they are investing in increasing the skills of their labor base. And there are many examples of also countries that are taking into account the reality of climate change, and they're shifting towards renewable energy. And that is being done through international cooperation. We have many examples which are also funded, for example, by the United Nations Development Programme, to fund skills transfers in exactly this kind of renewable energy technologies. So thank you.
Irene. Now I would like to thank every speaker we heard so far. Now it's time to the free debate. During the next 8 minutes, you can casually discuss about the topic. Let's start.
I'll start if you don't mind. So I would like to ask a couple of things to my colleague, Capitan. So you said that one of our problems is resources, right? So I assume that you agree with me that we have to distribute them in a smart way. And you also said that we wouldn't know what to adapt to if we go in like 50 years from now, right? So I would like to ask you, how do you think it is a good idea to put resources in a matter that you don't really know the shape of, that you don't know the topic of, you don't know what to adapt to? So how do you know what to mitigate, how to act now to resolve problems in the future? What we are trying to tell you here is that we want to act now. And I would like to have this conversation. I would like you to have this conversation with people that won't have a city to live in when the sea level is going to be too high, and that's going to happen. There was a time for mitigation. This is not the time. Resources are very limited, especially for the pandemic. Thank you.
So I'll take the floor, and then our captain will explain this. That there's a different reasoning at place here, because we have said adaptation is necessary as well as mitigation. The thing is that exactly because we don't know exactly the impact of climate change, I mean, if you read on every UN publication and every IMF publication that are trying to forecast the cost of this phenomenon, everyone says, we are not sure. For like 70% of the impacts of climate change are not sure. And what we say is that adaptation is necessary because people are dying, that's for sure. But you can't rely on it as a sustainable strategy, because at some point you don't know if the sea levels, okay, this year they will rise, you will see like 50 centimeters increase. But then what if it's a 2-meter increase, and the kind of seawalls that you built are not going to protect these people? So you can't forecast, you can adapt to something you don't know, and it's recognized that it's uncertain. So a better strategy is to go to the roots of the problem and address them. It's true that for the past 30 years, nothing has basically been done to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but there's still a window of time frame where we can act. And this is between now and 2050, even 2030 if you want to be really strict. And secondly, there are resources for this. I think every kind of discussion today in media about the post-pandemic recovery, it's all focused on, we have a lot of money around, we should spend it well, we should spend it on green energy and sustainability. So it's not a dream, it's totally doable, we just need that commitment.
Yes, I'll get the floor if you don't mind to answer the points that you brought up today, and I'll tell you the exact difference on forecasting something with mitigation and forecasting something with adaptation. And let's set the example of the dam. Like you build the dam, and you exactly said that is true. Like you cannot forecast exactly, as we also said in the first speech of our captain, that you cannot forecast exactly the consequences of the mitigation policies and the climate change. But what you can do is, for example, building a dam, right? And if you have a margin of error that is 70%, well, you build that dam 70% higher or lower. You can adapt the adaptation policies, and that's what I'm trying to say. What you cannot do is to adapt the mitigation ones. Or better, you can do it, but it's quite impossible in terms of realistic way. Because, for example, you can say that now the limits are really, really lower, and that all the countries should respect those limits that are really, really lower. Or you can say that from now to 2030 or 2050, it's up to you when you decide, everyone should not eat meat anymore. You can do it, but it's not going to work. Nobody will do it, or at least the majority of people will not do it. And why? Because, for example, let's set the example as that was discussed in the backstage. For example, in Sri Lanka, they have problems of climate change, and they cannot grow crops anymore. And what is the solution? To keep limits so that one day they will grow crops again? No, the solution is to try to find an adaptation policy to grow crops now, because the people needs now crops. And you cannot say to them, well, if you start not eating meat anymore, then one day maybe you will have, because I'm underlining one day maybe, you're gonna have the possibility to grow crops to grow crops again, sorry. So this is not like a solution, this is not an answer that you can give to those people. They need responses and they need answers now. And you can adapt them. You can adapt the adaptation policies. You cannot adapt the mitigation policy. And that's why we call it a dream for now, which would be good if they are well applicable. But we will not have this debate now.
So thank you for your point. We understand that we need some answers now. But on the other hand, when you have unpredictable consequences, you need to develop new technologies. You need innovation to give responses, and you need time to develop this kind of innovation. And mitigation is the resources that gives you time in order to reduce emissions now, in order to have more time to develop the responses, the answers, and innovation that we need in the future.
Besides, no, wait, I would add something. Besides, of course, I think we said it like 3 times. Adaptation is necessary because we recognize that there are already floods and people are dying because they have no land to cultivate their crops. We're not saying no, we don't need adaptation, but we have to face the reality that if we don't undertake also mitigation policies, which, by the way, are not that difficult as it seems, because some countries and there are doing it, and some resources are already being found to do that. Let's look at the European Green Deal. If you don't do mitigation today, those people that we try to protect today, rightly so, through adaptation strategies, will not be there anymore as the rest of humanity, because if we don't do mitigation today, the temperatures increase and the extreme events will just be so high and too many that human life and animal life and any kind of life will not be possible on this planet. And that's not me saying this, it's scientists saying so, recognized by the International Panel on Climate Change. So we're being very realistic here.
I'll just answer 20 seconds, then and you can go, Margherita. So number one, we cannot have an answer of mitigation by saying that we can do now mitigation for the problems that are happening now, because the problems that we have now are the consequence of the acts that were done in the last 200 years. And the problem about the deals and mitigation based by deals is exactly the Paris Agreement. So how can we know that on the next, for example, US or Chinese dictator or US president would be another, for example, Donald Trump, and then he simply withdrew from the agreements, right? We cannot absolutely forecast that, but we can build a dam. We can do something to adapt to that. So this is something to keep in mind. I'm sorry.
So you're
Yeah,
right that the reason...
You go.
So go. No, you're
No,
right that there isn't an over authority that can control all the states, that can forecast what the states will do. But we know that...
Sorry to interrupt you guys, but our time for the free debate is over. We are getting close to the end of this activity. Now the two captains have each 3 minutes to give their conclusion. I remind you, the question we started from was, is it too late to halt climate change? First, the captain of As We Speak team, Valentina, the supporting team, can start.
Thank you. So I would like to briefly add something about what we just said. So the point is, I understand that you want to take both roads. You want to take the mitigation and adaptation one. The point is, we're facing the worst economic crisis in history. It's worse than the Second World War. So I believe that we should really think about how and where we put our resources. So that's the main point. That's why we are debating today about adaptation and not mitigation. There was a time for mitigation, as we said. This is not the time. It's clearly not the time, especially because of the pandemic. But I would like to do a brief recap of whatever we said in this debate. So the thing is this. We're all passionate when it comes to this kind of topic. We could see this today. The kind of topics where we see people suffering and in need of our help, and we raise our voices and we expect to be heard, and for powerful people to make big changes and ordinary citizens to change their habits in order to fight for this cause. And we as a human race, we tend to bond over generally spread feelings because it makes us feel united, and we love to fight for something that we believe in, and that is beautiful. That is the bright side. That's what we're doing here today. The problem that rises here is the tendency to make a simple matter out of such a complex phenomenon, to take anything for granted, and to believe that just because something fits in the length of a sign, it must be like that. We all would like to have an easy, quick, especially known solution for this huge mess we're all in. But unfortunately, that's not the whole story, and we need to accept that. There's much more to it, and it's irresponsible not to get into detail and face the reality because it's comfortable and it feels good. We believe it is too late, but let's say it wasn't, as you clearly said. Let's say it wasn't. What are you going to physically do about it that we're not doing already? Are you going to stop using heat? Are you going to stop using electricity? Are you going to stop using cars, your iPhones? Because we wouldn't be having this conversation. Are you going to force people to do this for you, for the cause, for the planet? Because they're not going to do it. You're not going to do any of that. And no wonder. And also, you make people uncomfortable around this topic. You're going to push them away from the problem. They're going to reject it, since they see the solution as something that is too difficult to reach, to even try. If you want someone to get interested in an issue, you have to serve them with something that is within their reach. You have to show them that they can do something about it. Believe me, there is no faster way for someone to drop everything than feeling useless. I think we can all relate to that somehow. So yours is a wish, a hope that we would love to share. Ours is an actual response with its immediate effects. This is what we need to do. Whatever you can make a catchy sign in some protest out of it or not. Thank you. I'll leave the floor.
Thank you, Valentina. Now it's the turn of the opponent captain. Asia of the 1987 team, please start. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. We know it's complicated, and we agree with our opponents. We need adaptation, but this is not the time to give up. It's not too late, and our team cleared up in the open debate. We just need more responsibility and more commitment, but we have to leave future generation with a better planet and a better place to live, not a long list of problems to solve. The answer we are looking for is in integration, which is not a wish or hopeful thinking, is mitigation and adaptation together. Addressing climate change and its effects presents us a double challenge in which the first priority must be mitigation, which will be putting limits on future climate changes. And second is adaptation, which means preparing for the inevitable impact. It is essential that climate change gets addressed in an integrated way. Choosing between mitigation and adaptation is comparable to choosing between repairing broken bicycle brakes or buying a helmet. Working brakes help prevent accident, which is mitigation, while the helmet is meant to avoid injury if an accident should occur, which is adaptation. What's the reason of putting on a helmet to ride the bike with broken brakes? We have already made clear that of the great advantages and cost effectiveness of mitigation and its flexibility to both top-down and bottom-up strategies. Yes, mitigation is a big investment, we know that, but it's also an investment will ensure less adaptation costs in the future. When we talk about climate change, we know that we're talking about something complicated and difficult to forecast, but that's why we need a comprehensive approach that takes into account every aspect of our ecosystem. The captain of the pro team talked about building dams to save cities, which is right, but how you will adapt polar bears to melting lands or coral reefs to pollution? And let's not pretend these facts will not touch us in any way, because we all know how much nature is interconnected. If we really want to find a solution, a real solution that is not just hope, we cannot avoid one part and focus on the other. If we really want to save this planet, we cannot disregard mitigation. As doctors say, better safe than sorry. We will keep our helmet on, but first, let's fix those brakes. Thank you.
Thank you. So guys, thank you. You did a great job. There will be now a short break to give some moments to the judge to decide the winner team. We will be back in a few minutes.
Mi chiamo Valentina Galli, frequento la facoltà di Scienze Politiche e Sociali dell'Università Cattolica e dibatto perché dibattere per me è passione, è confronto ed è crescita con gli altri.
Ciao, sono Francesco Morici, sono iscritto al secondo anno di Scienze Politiche e Relazioni Internazionali e dibatto perché voglio approfondire i temi importanti della nostra società ascoltando le opinioni degli altri e cercando di costruire una discussione concreta e non polemica.
I'm Alessia Silipigni. I'm a student at the Faculty of Political and Social Science. I debate because I think that this could be not only a great way to express your personal opinion, but also a great opportunity to share your ideas with others. Actually, I strongly believe that ideas can be improved if questioned and tested. And for this reason, I debate, most of all, because I would like to consider things from another point of view.
My name is Florian Seiko, and I'm a student of economics. The faculty that I attend is the International Management faculty, and I study at Piacenza University of Sacro Cuore, Cattolica University, to be more precise. I want to debate, and I like to debate, because I think that in order to find some solution to the complex problems that our society is facing today and in these days, so we have the problems related to for example, COVID-19, which is more present nowadays. We have the problems related to the environment. So all of these problems require complex and difficult solution, and you cannot achieve those solutions without dialogue and without debate. Every truth that you have to achieve might be also on your opponent's side, so on the side of the person that you do not agree in the beginning. So the importance of having a dialogue, the importance of debating, the importance of challenging your ideas and the ideas of the others are really, really, really necessary in order to achieve the best solution possible, and why not the truth? And that's why I want to debate, and that's why I like debating.
I'm Enrico Fedele. I'm a student at the Faculty of Economics, and I debate because I believe that debating is a very close friend of progress and is the only way that we can find solutions together.
Sono Marta Agostinoni e frequento la facoltà di Economia e Gestione Aziendale. Dibatto perché sono convinta che noi giovani dobbiamo affrontare oggi questi problemi, poiché nel prossimo futuro saremo noi a dover intervenire per gestire questa realtà. Sta a noi infatti informarci e conoscerli ora per poi un domani conviverci in modo resiliente.
Ciao, sono Francesco Morici. Sono iscritto al secondo anno di Scienze Politiche e Relazioni Internazionali e dibatto perché voglio approfondire i temi importanti della nostra società ascoltando le opinioni degli altri e cercando di costruire una discussione concreta e non polemica.
I'm Alessia Silipigni. I'm a student at the Faculty of Political and Social Science. I debate because I think that this could be not only a great way to express your personal opinion, but also a great opportunity to share your ideas with others. Actually, I strongly believe that ideas can be improved if questioned and tested. And for this reason, I debate, most of all, because I would like to consider things from another point of view.
I'm Enrico Fedele. I'm a student at the Faculty of Economics, and I debate because I believe that debating is a very close friend of progress and is the only way that we can find solutions together.
Mi chiamo Valentina Galli, frequento la Facoltà di Scienze Politiche e Sociali dell'Università Cattolica e dibatto perché dibattere per me è passione, è confronto ed è crescita con gli altri.
My name is Florian Seiko, and I'm a student of economics. The faculty that I attend is the International Management faculty, and I study at Piacenza at University of Sacro Cuore, Cattolica University, to be more precise. I want to debate, and I like to debate, because I think that in order to find some solution to the complex problems that our society is facing today and in these days, so we have the problems related to for example, COVID-19, which is more present nowadays. We have the problems related to the environment. So all of these problems require complex and difficult solution, and you cannot achieve those solutions without dialogue and without debate. Every truth that you have to achieve might be also on your opponent's side, so on the side of the person that you do not agree in the beginning. So the importance of having a dialogue, the importance of debating, the importance of challenging your ideas and the ideas of the others are really, really, really necessary in order to achieve the best solution possible, and why not the truth? And that's why I want to debate, and that's why I like debating.
So we have a winner.
Hello?
Hello, Sandra. You have the name of the team?
Okay, right. So if you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Sandra Corsi, yeah, and I have the privilege, let alone the burden, to speak on behalf of the jury, Professors Fausto Colombo and Maria Chiara Zanarotti. Okay. So I'd like to start out by commending both teams for their really outstanding job in debating their respective theses, and please trust me, I really mean it. So we, as a jury, appreciated the level of preparation of all students, and we're sure that you have spent time and effort in preparing, researching, and rehearsing, because you made this show really enjoyable for all. And so we also appreciated the legwork done behind the scenes by the students who have not taken the word. I would like to stress that. So everyone role was important, and be reassured it was appreciated. And as much as I would love to end on this positive note of complimenting both teams, I have been tasked with this thankless role of delivering good news to one team and, alas, some bad news to the other one. So please bear with me because it's been challenging for the jury. And so I would like to make it a nice experience for everyone, so especially the team who has not won in this one time, so that you can take home some learnings. Okay. So one team has done a remarkable job at researching data, has done a great job at structuring their intervention as a team. The way this team presented the topics was also very convincing. However, the jury has found that the other team has used debate techniques very well, and this is a team that has won, and this is the con team. So please, everyone, join me in congratulating the winners and their very worthy opponents. Thanks, and over.
So I would like to remind the name of the winner team. The captain is Asia Genlake. The first speaker is Francesca Pellegatta. The second speaker is Irene Paviotti. Bravissimi. I want to thank all the people who made this virtual debate possible, and this last tough challenge also. All the students, all the teams, the professor, the staff for organizing in the backstage, all the things. And so thank you, and stay safe, and bye-bye.